Postgame Show with Jay Phillips and Elijah Campbell on the Game Network and on the 107.5 The Game app.
17 minutes after 5 o'clock on this Monday afternoon. Welcome back into the Postgame Show. Along with Elijah Campbell, I'm Jay Phillips. Appreciate you being with us this coming Friday at 3:45. Derek Scott, Stuart Lake on the call. Opening day 2025 at Founders Park. And to discuss that and a whole lot more, we welcome the guy who will be in charge of the Gamecocks for the first time on opening day this coming Friday, but no stranger to college baseball. He is national champion Paul Mainieri, and he is with us this afternoon. Coach, good to have you. How was the final scrimmage? How many butterflies does the veteran Paul Mainieri still have in that stomach when opening week is upon us?
Well, it's good to be with you, Jay and Elijah. I got to tell you, I just walked off the field literally 5 minutes ago after our final preseason scrimmage, and I can't tell you how happy I am to not have to scrimmage anymore. We got through it healthy. Nobody got hurt today on the last day. I always hold my breath the last scrimmage. You know, somebody's going to get hit by a pitch and break a hand or something like that. But we're in good shape, ready to go. You know, I told somebody the other day, I'm more nervous as a coach on opening day than I am coaching for the national championship in Omaha. You know, it's just the unknown when you haven't played anybody else and you think you have a good team, you think your kids are ready to go, but until you're across the field from somebody with a different color uniform, you just don't know for sure what's going to happen. So it causes a lot of butterflies for this coach.
When you look at these scrimmages here, January, February, Coach, relative to fall ball, how much more importance do you place upon them individually? And do you feel like the kids understand that it's more, my term here, more of a crunch time opportunity where there are still those roster questions?
Oh, I think it's a little of everything. You know, you want to get your pitchers ready. That's priority number one. You know, you're building up their pitch counts and trying to get them into shape to be able to go out there and pitch a little bit more extended once the games begin. Because in fall practice, you never have a pitcher throw more than 3 innings, and it's rare when you even have somebody throw that much. But now you're hoping that maybe your starters can go out there and give you 5 innings on opening weekend. So you got to get their pitch count up to 75 or 80 pitches. But at the same time, you want them to play the game the right way, the position players, you know, they're hitting and running the bases and defense and so forth. And then there's still some question marks as far as who's going to win a job here and there. And, you know, it's always fluid. You know, nothing is ever etched in stone. And actually, you know, some guys have really elevated their status on our team with the way they've performed over the last month. And that's exciting for us. You know, you know, I know the prognosticators out there don't think much of our team, but we think a lot of our team, and I think that's the most important thing. We're going to start this season with a great deal of confidence and believe that we can play with anybody.
Coach Mainieri is on with us right now. And Coach, you mentioned a couple of guys separating themselves over the last few weeks and during these scrimmages and really making, I guess, either life harder or easier on you when it comes to filling out the lineup. But maybe who are some of those guys that have really made some of those strides over the last few weeks that you feel a lot better about?
Well, I'll tell you, there's a lot of guys, and I don't even feel like we just have 9 starting players. I feel like we're closer to like 13 guys that I could feel would be starting players for us. And, you know, because some guys are going to get hurt. Some guys are going to need a day off. Some guys may not perform at the level that you hope. So you don't want to have people that you're just throwing in there cold that, you know, you don't know what you're going to get out of them. So if I have 13 or so position players that I can really be counting on, and then, you know, with the pitching staff, that's where it's really fluid. And I think 3 guys have emerged to be starting pitchers for us. Dylan Eskew, who was a starter last year and has pitched really well. His last scrimmage outing last weekend, he threw 5 shutout innings with 7 strikeouts and looked really tremendous. Hopefully he can mimic that performance this coming Friday. Matthew Becker also threw 5 shutout innings. In fact, his 5 innings were no-hit innings, and he looked really good. So that was exciting for us. And then Jake McCoy, he was pretty much competing with Eli Jersenbeck for the Sunday start for this opening weekend, and he just rose to the occasion, and he threw 4 1/3 shutout innings against our number one lineup. And, we only took him out after 4 1/3 because of a pitch count. But he's earned the start for the Sunday game. So I think those 3 guys have emerged on the mound and as for starting pitching roles, at least through the first weekend. And then there were, several other guys have really come on, out of the bullpen for us. So I like the depth of our staff. And like I said, I like the depth of our position players. So it's hard for me to start naming, a bunch of guys because I'm sure I'm going to forget someone.
Coach, when you talk about, you've got a plethora of position guys, and I'm curious, and we talked with Stuart Lake about this, in a general way last week, how much does a player's defense, if you've got a hitter, Ethan Petrie, Kennedy Jones, what they can do with the plate. And I don't want to single those guys. I'm using them as an example, not so much to have you specifically comment. You do whatever you see fit as a coach. But how much does a player's defensive ability factor into what you want to do, especially if they do have infield or outfield versatility or maybe a DH opportunity? How does that look?
Well, obviously, the more things that a guy can do, the more valuable he is. If he can be a good offensive player as well as a good defensive player, then you got yourself a real winning ball player. But if they only do one of those things, defense or offense, they need to do it extraordinarily well. But for me, it's just really hard to play a guy that can't play good defense, because if you want to pitch well, you better play good defense behind him, especially our team this year. We don't have a lot of overpowering arms that are going to strike out, a ton of batters. And our pitchers are going to pitch to contact, and we need to be able to make the plays behind them. For example, we have, the kid that I'm going to play at third base and stick with is a kid by the name of KJ Scobie, and he is an outstanding defensive third baseman. Now, he's going to hit too, but it's going to be sporadic because he's a freshman. He's going to have to learn a lot. They're going to, pitch him, tough, and the SEC can find a weakness and exploit that weakness. But he's going to continue to get better as a hitter. But the reason I'm going to play him every day is because he plays such tremendous defense at third base. I've said this many, many times. People that know me, third base is the most underrated defensive position on the field. You don't notice that you don't have a good third baseman until you don't have a good third baseman. And that ball always seems to find him, and it starts innings and, starts rallies for the other team and so forth. And I think with Scobie down there, he's such a calm, cool person, even as a rookie, as a freshman, that he's gonna help our team so much with his defense. So really what the end result that I'm looking for is the difference on the scoreboard, the run differential on the scoreboard. Whether you're saving the runs or knocking the runs in, it still counts the same in the run differential on the scoreboard.
And, Coach, you don't need me to tell you, that the SEC is a juggernaut, and that's obviously the most important part of the season. But when you're playing ball, at mid-February and even into March, what are maybe some of the things that you use as a coach to evaluate your lineups, evaluate, starting rotations when you are in kind of the early onset of the season? Like, what are maybe some things that you kind of look at when it comes to trying to finalize really who you are by the time you get into SEC play?
Well, that's a really good question because, the bottom line is we're playing in a really tough conference, the best conference in America, and we're priming ourselves to get into postseason play and make a deep run in the NCAA tournament. So you have to set your standards really high. So what may work against some non-conference schools, not to take anything away from them, but what may work against some other schools may not work in the SEC. And so it's hard for me to specifically determine and tell you what exactly we're looking for, but we're just trying to make the team as tough as we can against the best competition possible. And fortunately, we have a tremendous series in the third weekend of the season against Clemson, and that's as good a team as you'll find, in the SEC as well. So we're going to get a good idea of where we stand that weekend. And so it kind of expedites trying to push our team to become as good as we can as early as we can. But I've always said this, for all the years that I coached in the SEC, well, even before that when I was at Notre Dame, I want our team to continually get better during the course of the season. And there may be a move or two that you have to make later in the season to strengthen your team. You give somebody an opportunity early, or they're not getting many opportunities early, but you keep giving them a chance, here and there, maybe as a defensive replacement. But then when they get their at bat, they do something special. And then later on in the year, you say, okay, maybe this kid can be a spark for us. And you put him in and he does some great things. And so my goal is always, I don't think we can win a national championship in February and early March. We're going to try to win every game that we play. But at the same time, we have to find out who are the guys we can really count on when the competition is at its highest level. And that may result in occasionally we lose a game because, I stick with the pitcher a little bit longer than maybe I should have, because I got to find out if he can pitch through this jam and get us through this inning. And maybe he doesn't, and it causes us to lose a game, early in the year in the non-conference game. But we find out that maybe isn't a kid that we can count on when the going gets tough, in the SEC. And vice versa. You find out, you give this kid a chance, and he finds a way to plow through that door, and all of a sudden you see he's a kid you can really count on when the going gets tough. But you can't find that out just by sitting in your office and guessing. You got to give him an opportunity to go out there and do it. And baseball's a hard game to play. You got a 56-game schedule, and nobody's going to go undefeated through 56 games. So you got to learn from the failures as well.
Coach, last thing for you. Ray Tanner being honored on Saturday afternoon with Ray Tanner Field. How much pressure is he under to throw that first pitch well? B, does Paul Mainieri have coaching tips for Ray Tanner to make sure that's a strike?
Listen, Ray is number one. Ray deserves this honor. It's going to be his day. I think it's so wonderful. I tell people that Ray's greatest fault that I know of Ray is that he's way too humble. I mean, he does not like the attention on him. He doesn't like the praise and all that stuff. He's just a very humble guy, and did his job, but he did it so well. And I keep telling him, Ray, let people honor you. Just accept it. You've impacted a lot of lives in your time, and people want to honor you, and you need to let them do that. And I think it's a tremendous thing that the field is being named after him. I'm going to be very proud to go to work every day on a field named after Ray Tanner, my friend and a person that I respect a lot. And I know I've seen him throw a lot of batting practice pitches in his day, so I don't think he's going to have much trouble throwing a strike at the first pitch. He doesn't need my coaching, but I'm real excited for him and his family, and it's going to be a wonderful day for South Carolina, Gamecock Nation. But we got one game to worry about before we worry about Ray Tanner's day, so we got to get off to a good start on Friday.
Friday at 4, Sacred Heart will have it for you starting here at 3:45 with Derek and Stewart on the call. Coach, appreciate the time. Look forward to doing this all season long. Best of luck this weekend.
Okay, guys. Good to be with you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. That is Gamecock baseball coach Paul Mainieri. And the drive around the SEC is next.